History bears witness when the system breaks down, people sell their freedom. A time where gold turned to dust and soldiers burning in iron ovens took over the empire. Where kings abdicated to grow cabbages and the alchemists' books were burned. The bloody game is about to end, but will Rome still be Rome or just a tyrannical memory? Get ready, this is going to be our last video lesson because Christianity is about to rise. Secret number 76. Red Sea Pirates. Taking advantage of Rome's weakness, pirates became very active in the Red Sea. They would loot spice ships coming from India. To deal with this, merchants began hiring archers on their ships. This marked the beginning of private security in the merchant navy. Secret number 77. Excluded from command. Senate's power ends. Emperor Gallienus passed a law in 260 AD that prohibited senators from leading the army. This was a massive shift. Previously, the politician was the general. Now, the soldier became the general. This turned Rome into a military state where educated leaders were replaced by uneducated but powerful soldiers. Secret number 78. Secret Christian symbol. Chi-Rho symbol. By the end of the 3rd century, Christians began using a secret symbol, Chi-Rho. It was formed by combining the first two letters, X and P, of the Greek word Christos. This symbol was later painted on Roman shields during the time of Constantine, but its origins lie in the underground churches, catacombs of the 3rd century. Secret number 81. Fake gold. Alchemy's rise. In Egypt, which was part of Rome, alchemists were trying to make cheap metals look like gold. Emperor Diocletian feared that if they succeeded, the value of gold would plummet and people would rebel. In 296 AD, he ordered the burning of all books on alchemy. Because of this, much of the knowledge of ancient chemistry was lost. Secret number 80. Conclusion of the century. End of part 4. By 280 AD, Rome was breathing again, but it was a changed Rome. People were no longer citizens, but subjects. Freedom had been replaced by security. The 3rd century taught the world that when a system fails, humans often trade their freedom for their safety. Secret number 81. Diocletian's cabbages, the gourd-loving emperor. Emperor Diocletian was the first and only Roman emperor in history to retire voluntarily in 305 AD, though planned at the end of the 3rd century. He went to his farm to practice agriculture. When people pleaded with him to return and take over the government, he replied, "If you could see the cabbages I have grown, you would never ask me to go back to that dirty politics." He loved his cabbages more than power. Secret number 82. Roman nanotechnology, the Lycurgus Cup. In the 3rd or early 4th century, Romans created a glass cup that changed color depending on the light. If lit from the front, it appeared green. If lit from behind, it appeared red. In 1990, scientists looked at it under a microscope and were stunned. The Romans had infused the glass with nanoparticles of gold and silver. They were using nanotechnology, and we only found out 1600 years later. Secret number 83. China reunited. End of 3 kingdoms, 280 AD. After 60 years of bloody warfare and the deaths of millions, the Jin dynasty reunited China in 280 AD. The first line of the famous novel, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, is, "The empire, long divided, must unite." This prophecy came true in 280 AD. Secret number 84. The birth of books. Scroll to codex. For centuries, people wrote on long scrolls which were difficult to read. In the 3rd century, Christians began stacking pages on top of each other and sewing them together. This was called a codex. This was the ancestor of the modern book. In a codex, you could easily flip pages. By 300 AD, Bibles and law books had transitioned from scrolls to codices. Secret number 85. Saint George and the Dragon? Legend of Saint George. Saint George was a Roman soldier in Diocletian's army at the end of the 3rd century. He refused to kill Christians. Although the dragon-slaying story was added 800 years later, the real George faced the dragon of evil, the emperor's orders, and was martyred in 303 AD. He remains the patron saint of many countries, including England. Secret number 86. India's Shakespeare. Basa, the playwright. In the 3rd century, estimated, a great playwright named Basa lived in India. Even before Kalidasa, he wrote Sanskrit plays like Swapnavasavatana. His plays were considered lost until the 20th century, when an old manuscript was discovered in Kerala in 1912. He broke the rules of Indian dramaturgy by writing tragedy scenes in his plays.
Secret number 87. Roman tanks. The clibanarii cavalry. After suffering defeats at the hands of the Persians, the Romans changed their army. They created a cavalry unit called clibanarii. In this, both the horse and the rider were covered from head to toe in iron armor, chainmail. These were ancient tanks. When they moved, the clanking of iron alone terrified the enemy. In the summer, they heated up like an oven. The word clibanarius itself means oven man. Secret number 88. Ban on purple. Only emperors wear purple. At the end of the 3rd century, Diocletian made a rule that only the emperor could wear Tyrian purple. If a common man was caught wearing purple silk, it was considered treason and punished by death. Color was no longer just fashion, it was power. Secret number 89. Persian propaganda. Naqsh-e-Rustam. On the rocks of Iran, Naqsh-e-Rustam, Persian kings commissioned massive carvings. These show Roman emperors Valerian and Philip kneeling and begging for mercy. This was the largest political poster of the ancient world. Anyone passing by would know that Rome is no longer the boss, Persia is the boss. Secret number 90. 10th part punishment. Decimation. In the 3rd century, Saint Maurice and his Theban legion refused to kill Christians. As punishment, the entire unit underwent decimation. This meant every 10th soldier would be killed. This process was repeated until the entire legion, 6,000 plus soldiers, was eliminated. Secret number 91. Return to barter system. In the 3rd century, the value of money, coins, fell so low that even the Roman government stopped accepting cash for taxes. They took grain, clothes, or animals as tax. The world's most advanced economy went back 1,000 years, and people returned to exchanging goods for goods. Barter system. Secret number 92. Towards one God. Solar monotheism. Apart from Christianity, 3rd century Romans were gradually leaving behind many gods to believe in one supreme deity, Sol Invictus, the sun. This paved the way for Christianity. People's mindset was already prepared for one God, monotheism. Only the name was left to be changed. Secret number 93. Roman army tattoo or military mark. At the end of the 3rd century, to prevent new recruits from deserting, a permanent mark or tattoo or stigma was tattooed on their arm or hand. This mark was often the emperor's name. It was like branding animals, showing that the soldier was now the property of the government. Secret number 94. Cage cups, Diocletian. 3rd century Roman artisans began making cage cups. These consisted of a glass cup encased in a glass mesh connected to the cup by only a few thin stems. This work was so delicate that even today it is nearly impossible to make without a laser. How Romans made it with a chisel and hammer remains a mystery. Secret number 95. Wedding rings, betrothal rings. In the 3rd century, the trend of using gold rings for marriage became firm among Christians and Romans. Bishops considered it a symbol of the marriage promise. Previously, it was made of iron, but wealthy 3rd century Christians changed it to gold. Diamonds came much later. Secret number 96. The original Romans are gone. Citizenship diluted. After everyone was granted citizenship in 212 AD and constant civil wars, the concept of original Roman blood vanished. By the end of the 3rd century, the emperors of Rome were not from Italy. They were from Africa, Severus, Syria, Elagabal, or the Balkans, Diocletian. Rome was now a global empire, not an Italian one. Secret number 97. The Huns are moving. In the 3rd century, nomads living north of China, the Xiongnu, began moving west. These people later became the Huns. Their displacement, migration, was a domino effect. When they fled, they pushed the Germans, and the Germans attacked Rome. This movement, starting in the 3rd century, would end Rome in the 5th century. Secret number 98. End of the secret police. End of frumentarii. We read about the frumentarii in the 2nd century. By the end of the 3rd century, they had become so corrupt that people hated them. Diocletian shut down this institution. But don't celebrate yet. He replaced them with a new organization called Agents in Rebus, which was even more dangerous. Spying never stopped, only the name changed. Secret number 99. Alexandria Lighthouse. Lighthouse damage. One of the 7 wonders of the world, the Lighthouse of Alexandria, Pharos, was still standing in the 3rd century, but it began to weaken due to lack of maintenance and earthquakes. Pictures of it are found on 3rd century coins, which were perhaps its last glimpses. After this, it gradually turned into ruins. Secret number 100. Conclusion of the century. The end of the crisis. By the year 300 AD, Rome had survived, but it had changed. The drama of democracy was over, and open dictatorship, dominate, had begun. The 3rd century taught the world that the price of order is liberty. People laid their freedom at the feet of the emperor for the sake of peace.